The news hit like a tremor across the Bravo universe. One quiet statement, and suddenly, an 11-year marriage that fans thought was unbreakable was over. Kandi Burruss stepped forward with words that were calm, measured, and incredibly heavy. She said the decision came after deep thought and a lot of prayer, that she needed to protect her peace, that this was emotional, painful, but necessary. And in just a few sentences, she revealed a reality nobody saw coming. She and Todd Tucker were officially done. But before all the social media shockwaves and think pieces, there was a completely different story. Years earlier, this whole thing began with a spark during season 4 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Back then, Todd was behind the cameras, part of the production crew quietly working on scenes while Kandi was one of the show's brightest stars. Nobody imagined that a simple workplace connection would turn into a full-blown romance. By 2013, they were engaged. By 2014, they were married. And the world had a front-row seat to all of it. What viewers didn't always see, though, was the family that was forming behind the scenes. They weren't just Kandi and Todd. They were Riley. They were Kayla. They were Ace and Blaze. 2 kids they welcomed together as their careers kept expanding and their home life kept growing. It was a blended family that looked chaotic at times, loving at others, and always still trying to figure itself out. That was part of the appeal. They weren't picture perfect. They were real. And for years, the couple ran their life like a business empire. Literally. Restaurants. A trucking company. TV shows. A Bravo spinoff about their family and their restaurants. They didn't just share a marriage. They shared payrolls, deadlines, storefronts, production meetings. Their ambitions lined up so well that Kandi once said their dreams were intertwined. She brought the spark. Todd brought the structure. Together, they made it happen. And the partnership worked. You could see it everywhere. That's what made the next part so surprising. Because just a few days before the divorce announcement, Kandi was on stage at BravoCon accepting the Lifetime Achievement Award. And even then, standing under the lights, soaking in applause, she thanked Todd. She joked about the blogs, the shade, the rumors, the almost fights, and the actual fights. It sounded like 2 people who had weathered every storm and made it out stronger. And then suddenly they didn't. Because while fans thought everything was fine, there were whispers growing online for months. Completely unverified, completely mixed, just the usual storm of Twitter threads and Reddit theories. People noticing that Todd wasn't at a few events. Others pointing out how their once constant couple posts were slowing down. Some fans saying they looked distant on certain public appearances, while others insisted they were exactly the same as always. Nothing ever concrete. Nothing ever confirmed. But the internet rarely needs confirmation to start guessing. On top of that, Kandi's career was exploding at a level even she hadn't hit before. Broadway, Tony nominations, major productions, revivals with massive stars, and a brand new lead role in & Juliet. She was becoming a powerhouse in the theater world, an arena that demands time, energy, and total creative focus. And while this is pure speculation from fans, some wondered if the pace of her success, as inspiring as it was, shifted the dynamic at home. Not in a dramatic, scandalous way, just the natural strain that comes when 2 people grow fast, but not always in the same direction. And what made everything even harder for fans to wrap their heads around was the fact that not too long ago, Kandi and Todd were the definition of forever. On their 8-year anniversary, they shared tributes so emotional, you'd think they were still in their honeymoon phase. She said, "He made her better. He said God made no mistakes bringing them together. They posted slideshows, red carpet moments, NASDAQ photos, family memories. They called it a forever kind of love. They seemed so tightly bonded that the idea of them breaking down felt impossible. But even the strongest stories have chapters nobody sees. And when Kandi's statement came out, it was clear this wasn't impulsive, petty, or dramatic. It wasn't the kind of breakup that plays out through Instagram stories or messy leaks. This was thoughtful, sad, mature, a decision that took time, and one she said she didn't make lightly. Todd hasn't spoken publicly yet, but the response online has been a wave of shock mixed with empathy. Fans aren't dragging. They're not speculating about villains. They're just stunned. Because this wasn't a toxic marriage. It wasn't full of public scandals or back-to-back drama. It was two hardworking people who built a life, a family, and a brand, and decided that something needed to change. As Kandi said, she's stepping into a new chapter. She's focusing on her kids, on co-parenting with love and respect, on growth, on peace. And maybe that's what makes this story hit differently. It's not chaotic. It's not messy. It's human. And now the biggest question fans are asking is, what happens next? They have businesses woven together, children who adore them, careers that still overlap in some areas. Nobody knows whether they'll keep collaborating or whether they'll separate their professional lives too. All Kandi has asked for is privacy, grace, and understanding. And honestly, after everything she's accomplished and everything they've built, she deserves exactly that. In the end, this isn't a story about failure. It's a story about evolution. Because sometimes even a forever kind of love hits a crossroads. Sometimes two people who shared everything reach a moment where the next step has to be taken alone. And maybe that's the most surprising part of all. Not that the marriage ended, but that the ending was quiet, careful, and full of love for the family they built. So now the world is watching. Not for drama, but for their next chapter. And if there's one thing Kandi Burruss has proven again and again, it's that every ending in her life usually becomes the beginning of something even bigger.